Hello, hello, hello. My name is Katie, and here's what we're gonna be making today. We're gonna do a pair of memory wire earrings. And this uses the ring memory wire. And what memory wire is a steel spring-loaded wire that remembers its shape. And this is the ring version, so it's small enough to make little rings. Normally you would probably see it in a bracelet size or a necklace size. But we do have this in stock in the silver and the gold. And what I like to do is actually take it and make it into earrings rather than a ring. All right, so let's get started on this. So I've got my ring memory wire and I've got my memory wire cutters. You always have to use a special tool to cut it. It will ruin your normal flush cutters. And what I'm gonna do is pull out a few of these coils. And if this is too hard for you, if this is your first time working with it, you might do one at a time, but I like to just go ahead and do 3 at a time. Grab my cutter in one hand, hold those out, and I'm gonna kind of cut them in a stack. Like that. So that I get 3 rings. So for each earring, you're gonna need 3 rotations. And like I said, you can always go one by one if you wish. So I'm just checking to make sure they're all about the same size. This one is a little shorter. That's okay though. It's pretty much the same. I think it just got a little stretched out, but they're all basically 3 rotations of that memory wire. All right, so next what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get my beads together. I'm gonna lay these down on my tray, and I'm gonna use 2 8mm shell pearls and then 2 6mm black onyx beads. I like to have the 2 4mm and 2 6mm beads and 2 8mm beads under that. And I'm gonna put all of these on head pins. Ball and head pins. And then I'm gonna grab my one-step looper, the small one, the turquoise one. This is gonna make those head pins loop all in one step. And I love the consistency of this tool. So just put it in your tool, through the hole on the other side, press it up to the beginning of the plier, and squeeze. Okay, so do that on all 4 of your beads and your head pins. And here's the other one. Okay, so I've got all of those looped. The next step is to grab my flat nose or chain nose plier and go through and close all those loops, just a little bit. There's usually a small opening when I use my one-step looper, which I like sometimes if I'm going to be attaching them onto chain or something, but for this, we just need those loops to be closed. Just kind of twist them until they touch. Okay. And last one. Okay. Now we can start putting this earring together. I'm gonna lay these beads out on my little mat. I am gonna go ahead and make my ear wire and the jump rings for the top just before we start the next step of construction. I'm gonna make a pair of ear wires out of this 20 gauge German style wire. So cut 2 pieces of 20 gauge wire and flush cut them at the end together. I've got my 6-step bail shaping plier. This is how I always make my ear wires. Make sure they're completely flat, and using the smallest rung, grab at the very end and roll back towards you until they touch the wire. Like that. Take your plier out and then flip it around so the largest rung on your plier is underneath that loop. Just grab right here. And then you can pull your tails down and around. And using your flush cutter, cut right here. And you have a pair of ear wires. Okay, so if you want, you can use any ear wires that you have as well at home. Sometimes I can't find them, and I just make them. Okay, and then we also need to make jump rings. So just using my scrap from making my ear wires, I'm gonna make 2 jump rings that are, I would probably recommend one of those sizes, like a 6 or a 7 or something. I'm not sure exactly those sizes, but just kind of a medium to large size jump ring for the top of your earring. Not even gonna worry about flush cutting the one side. I'm just gonna start looping. Make a little coil. And then now I'm just gonna pick my favorite area of my little spool I just made and flush cut it into a jump ring. Let's go this way. And then this way. Okay, so now I've got my jump ring for the top of my earring, and I'm gonna go to the next step. We start at the bottom of our earring. So pick up one of your little memory wire coils, and you're gonna need to start making some loops. And I like to use my 6-step bail shaping plier for this because they're gonna make all of the, how many? 2, 4, 6 loops the same. So the 6 loops will be exactly the same size. I'm gonna use the smallest rung on this plier. Okay, so I'm gonna grab one of those ends and roll it back towards me. It's a little bit tricky. Memory wire is very strong. Okay, so you've got that loop and you want it to look flush. When you hold up your loop like this, you don't want to see that loop. So if you need to, take your flat nose plier and kind of press it into the ring. So it's like that. Then you're gonna slide on your bead, one of the 8 millimeters, like so. Then you're gonna loop the other side. And really got to put pressure on that. And like I said, sometimes it wants to go sideways a little bit. So just take your flat nose plier and make it go this way. Just want like a little horseshoe shape. All right, so now we're ready for the next rung. Grab another circle, and once again, we're gonna loop the first side back towards us using the smallest rung. And I think now I remember the trick that I did for the first pair I ever made like this is that I used my 6-step bail shaping plier with the teeny tiny rung, but it's okay, I think this should work. Okay, so my first side is done. And I'm going to loop it through one side of this piece, thread my bead on here, and thread it through the other side. Okay, now we're gonna roll back this side. Same thing. And I'm gonna use my flat nose to make sure that loop is in line with everything. Even though I feel like it's kind of changing the shape of my circle, but I'm just gonna go with it. And I'll show you where we are. Okay, now we're ready to do our third and final memory wire loop. Grab your last little circle. Roll back the first side. And this is ring memory wire. You could make this with regular wire if you wanted to, but that's a whole nother technique. First loop done. Gonna thread through this side of my earring. Put this bead on here, and then through this side. Okay, last step for this part, grab the other side here and roll it back towards you. Alrighty, so another little side note is that you want all these loops to be facing the same way. And if you're really a detail person, you want to make sure all the openings on your on your head pins are facing the same way too. And so all the openings towards the back. Which is not what I did on the bottom one, but I could always open that up and change it. So, okay, the last step is to grab your little jump ring that you made, and we're gonna open that up with 2 pliers. I like to use my flat nose primarily and just twist that open. And we're gonna slide on one of our loops, one of our top loops. And then our last bead, and then the other side of our memory wire. It's a little hard. And then our ear wire goes on top. And now you can just close that right up. And we're done. So that's it. It's a pretty easy earring. And you know what? I think that making the larger loops with my 6-step bail plier, I'd probably change this size of this bead here to the 6. I would probably make that smaller. So if that happens to you, maybe you can play with the size of your beads that you hang in the middle. But I think that's really cute. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. These are ring memory wire earrings.